Hey, Richard, this is Chris Biederman with the Sacramento Bee. Um, I'm just wondering, how safe do you feel in the building with all these protocols? I know you played a big role in all the negotiations with the league. How safe do you feel just overall, and how different is this, and how difficult is it to focus on football when there's also such a emphasis on safety?
I feel relatively safe. I mean, just as safe as I do in the rest of society, honestly. Um, at the end of the day, once you get through all the hoops you got to jump through and all the protocols and everything, I mean, you get on the field. Football is football as you know it. Um, obviously, this is in place to make sure that the season can go on, and obviously, there's been a lot of chatter out there about baseball and all this. But I think it's been fine. I think guys have adjusted and adapted in the way they needed to. Um, and outside of the testing every day and maneuvering the meeting rooms being different, I mean, I think it's been as normal as you can be during this time.
Richard, you spoke the other day about Emmanuel Moseley possibly starting opposite you this season. What specifically has you excited about Emmanuel from your observations of him over the years? What does he do well?
I mean, he does a lot of things well. He's really smart. He's a heady ball player. He adjusts as he goes. He learns. He gets smarter throughout the game. He's poised. He's poised in big games. The moment's never too big for him. He's consistent. He's consistent in practice. He's consistent in the games, and he'll only get better.
Hey, Richard, it's Cam Inman from the San Jose
I can
Mercury
barely
News.
hear you.
It's Cam Inman from the San Jose Mercury News. You got me now?
Uh, kind of.
Okay. Well, back on the coronavirus and the COVID concerns. Did you talk to your wife Ashley for a long time about whether you would play this year, and did you consider opting out? How did the family discussion go?
No, that was never really a conversation, honestly. The more of the conversation was whether her and the kids would come and how the school situations and all that would go. Obviously, I have my home in Seattle, where we stay majority of the time. But um, outside of that, I think that was the only concern. And obviously, the safety of my kids and my family is at the highest for me. And that's the dynamic that we needed to figure out. And we figured it out. They've stayed back, and we're adjusting in that regard.
Richard, Nick Wagner from ESPN here. I'm curious about the drop and the economic realities that you guys are dealing with now, and the potential drop in the salary cap. For you, does that bring any concerns, both as a potential free agent and also just for players at large for free agency going into next year?
Well, I mean, I guess it's a bit of concern, but it's also uncertainty in all regards. Because we won't know really until the season happens. A lot of our projections we projected conservatively. And if everything goes bad and there's zero fans in the stands and there's no concessions, there's no revenue from that regard, which is really extremely doubtful. There are obviously teams and stadiums and states that are open to having fans in the stands. So honestly, we won't know what reality is until the season's up, or throughout the season, you see how many fans are. You see how the world adjusts to COVID. And in that regard, you see, if any vaccines or anything helps to mitigate the issue. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. You can't concern yourself with the uncontrollables. You control what you can control, and you let the rest sort itself out.
Richard, after all the years in the league that you've been in, the season you had last year, what's your focus as you get ready for training camp? Has the nature of the offseason changed up and impacted how you prepare for the season?
Uh, every year is a new year. And every year you gotta reprove yourself, you gotta reestablish yourself, and you gotta put it back on tape. And that's the plan. I gotta go out there, I gotta work hard, I gotta be able to play well for my teammates and try to elevate my team and help us win ball games. I mean, that's the concern every year. The off season has been different, but we're pros and we get our work in, and we've been able to prepare and stay on top of our game. obviously it's an adjustment, and winning teams find a way to adjust the best in these situations. So I think the team that would adapt the best will be the one holding the trophy at the end.
Hey, Richard, this is Eric Blanchard with the Chronicle. I just wanted to ask you, oftentimes we hear, everyone, you all are grown men and all that stuff, but does it change at all this year, with you as a captain as far as, certainly not babysitting guys, but, sending the message, about when you're away from the facility, being responsible, following the rules just because so much is at stake if guys don't do that?
I think the coaches are emphasizing it, but at the end of the day, these are grown men and these are pros. If they're going to trick it off, they'll get quarantined, they'll get replaced. It'll be unfortunate. That's why we have testing every day, so they can catch it quick. But I think on a team like ours, and we're uniquely constructed to deal with this because obviously we're in Santa Clara. There's not a huge nightlife. It's not like we're in Atlanta or Texas or Miami or Las Vegas or LA where there's a lot of distractions, a lot of places you can go, a lot of things you can do to get yourself in trouble. I think our team is incredibly focused because of how close we were to winning the Super Bowl last year, and how that taste in their mouths is a bit of discipline in itself. That hunger, that angst is discipline in itself. So I think our team is incredibly committed and driven towards that goal, and I think that in itself will be discipline enough. Obviously we'll have the conversations, but those aren't things that are in anyone's control, but the guys being disciplined.
Hey, Richard, Jennifer Lee Chan. Kind of in that same grain, looking at what happened during the lockout, how important is it to kind of follow those guidelines for the ramp up towards contact and really kind of setting the tone by example and then kind of guiding the younger guys through that?
I'm not sure the lockout that you mean, but in terms of this offseason and the things that have happened, it's less of a concern because in the offseason, you have players coming together. Nobody's getting tested. Nobody's being quarantined. There were no safety measures. Just guys going out there and playing football. These guys, I think we've been tested probably 8 to 10 times already, throughout our time in training camp. And guys will continue to be tested daily. So it's not going to be the same where you don't know who has it. You don't know, who's been exposed, et cetera, et cetera. These guys are being tested every 24 hours. And we'll know if there's a positive test in the building within 24 hours. Obviously a lot can happen between now and then, but I think with these protocols in place, it's making it a lot safer environment and making players a lot more comfortable.
Hey, Richard, this is David Lombardi. I know that the theme of your first year with the 49ers, you were working with a lot of the young guys, getting them on the same page in the secondary. Last year, it was about putting it all together. I'm wondering, entering this camp and entering this season, a lot of guys last year under contract in the secondary. What's your focus and what's your theme in that room entering this season?
It's about elevating. Last year was a pretty good year, but there are a lot of things we could have done better. There are a lot of things we wish we could have had back. A lot of things we could have been sharper on. A lot of communication that we need to be sharper on, and those things will be better this year. I think another year of continuity, another year of being in the same room, being in the same scheme, knowing each other will be sharper. I think coming into last training camp, there were a ton of questions. There was Jimmy Ward and Tarts. How healthy would they be and how they would get through the season in their first year together after Jimmy played a year at corner and nickel. And, he finally has some continuity. He has a new contract. He's going to be a free safety. I think Tart, having another year under his belt in the scheme and understanding it. I think, at the right corner spot, Emmanuel Moseley having another year and really, really going out there and competing. I think that's what it's about. It's about elevating and being sharper this year and really holding each other accountable.
Hey, Richard, it's Tracy Sandler. You mentioned being tested about 8 times at this point. Can you talk a little bit about the testing experience and what that's been like? And is it just kind of old hat because it's happened so many times?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's the mid-nasal swab. They're going in, they're, spinning it around one nostril, spinning it around the other nostril. It kind of tickles. And then you go on about your day. Obviously, they have the contact tracing throughout the building to make sure, if there is an outbreak, if there is a positive test, it's able to be traced and contained. But honestly, it takes about 2 minutes, and it's been, it's part of your routine at this point.
Hey, Sherman, Kiana here. As a veteran, I want to know what's been your take on no preseason games. How does it affect a guy like you going into your 10th season compared to maybe some of these French guys?
Honestly, I'm not sure it'll affect me much at all. I wasn't going to plan on playing much in the preseason, but it is unfortunate for the guys competing for a job, competing for a starting spot and things like that, because you don't get a chance to put it on actual tape. Practice tape and practice reps and doing it right in practice only goes so far. You only get so much credit for that. Guys get a lot more, credit and a lot more experience and a lot more, I guess, motivated in game reps. Coaches can see it and say, hey, that wasn't just, hey, we showed this rep 1,000 times and he got it right in practice. That was, hey, he hasn't seen this team do it. He had to go through a different read. This is a different receiver he's going against. This is a different technique, and he still made the play. So I think it's going to be one of those years where it's tough for guys like that to make the team, and that's the part that really sucks, because there's been some fantastic fringe guys that have made this league and has made this league what it is and made it great. And hopefully, some of those guys will still get an opportunity, but I know it'll make it more difficult.
Hey, Richard, it's Jennifer again. What I was talking about is kind of the ramp up towards physical play, because the lockout, there were so many different injuries that happened. So how important was it for you as a player to kind of get those procedures and protocols in place as the ramp up to tackling, and playing an actual game happens?
Oh, it was super important. I think that a lot has been learned from the 2011 lockout year and how many injuries, because they went straight from nothing to real life football, and a few days of preparation and then shoulder pads and helmets and guys, that's just not how the human body works. So I think this is a much smarter way to approach it, and the NFLPA and the league came up with a joint committee, and those doctors did a great job coming up with this plan, and I think it's going to work especially well, especially under the circumstances. I know people wanted preseason, but there was no way to do preseason safely, in our opinions, and I think it'll work out well in the long run for our men. Obviously, it'll hurt some of our guys, but you just try to do what's right for the majority.
Hey, Richard, Kyle Posey from Niners Nation. You mentioned the word elevate. Can you just talk about the ownership in the locker room on both sides of the ball? Just about how both players, or how all the players, are just taking ownership on getting better?
Yeah, I mean, there's just an accountability, and there's a brotherhood aspect of this team, and it's something that's never talked about enough. There's a chemistry. And there's a want to, that they're getting better and wanting to elevate is something that's inside of you, or it's not. And some guys, play this game and say, hey, I just want to make a lot of money. I don't care about winning. I don't care about this. And that, on a winning team, you can't have a lot of those players because you won't ever be successful. We have a lot of unselfish guys who just want to do whatever it takes to help this team win. And that's on both sides of the ball, from Jimmy down to the last practice squad guy. And on defense, it's the same way. We have a lot of unselfish guys and a lot of guys with similar mental makeup. And the guys that they brought in, Trent being one of them, are built the same way. A lot of the rookies that they brought in are built the same way. And when you got a lot of guys like that, it makes you a hard team to beat, because everybody is willing to do whatever it takes to win. It's not, hey, I'm not willing to do this because it's not good for me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes because it's good for us. So if that means a receiver blocking, if that means a quarterback freaking shoot, I saw Jimmy pancake somebody last year. It's guys that are willing to go to places other places people aren't willing to go to win the ball game.